Do you like mysteries? To wander through the enigmatic mist of the inexplicable? Great. I'm Merc, and here you'll find what you're looking for. Welcome to my domains. The truth dissolves into the mist.
In 2006, on the northern coast of Peru, a group of archaeologists made a discovery that would shake the very foundations of Andean history. They were excavating the ancient site of Cao Viejo, a crumbling pyramid complex built by the Moche civilization over 1,700 years ago. They had found many tombs before, but what they were about to unearth was something that defied everything they thought they knew about the ancient world. Tar. As they dug deeper into the mud brick platform, they hit a sealed chamber. Inside, wrapped in 23 layers of intricate cotton mantles, lay the body of a woman. Not just any woman, but a ruler. Her remains were covered in offerings, gold objects, war clubs, and the regalia of a queen. They named her the Lady of Cao, but it was what lay beneath the wrappings that would send a chill down the spines of everyone present. When they carefully removed the final layers, they saw her skin, her arms, her hands, her feet, and even her ankles were covered in a complex web of tattoos. Snakes slithered across her flesh, spiders clung to her wrists, and the powerful figures of felines, jaguars, stalked her limbs. These weren't just decorations. They were symbols of supernatural power, a visual language that declared her connection to the spirit world. But as the analysis began, the first layer of the mystery revealed itself. The ink used to create these prophetic markings was a deadly cocktail. It contained high concentrations of mercury and other heavy metals, a poison that, in those amounts, should have caused agonizing illness and a slow, inevitable death. The question that has haunted researchers ever since is a simple one. How did she survive? Diem. The mercury in her tattoos was not a trace element. It was a potent, bioavailable poison that should have been absorbed through her skin, causing neurological damage, organ failure, and death. Every day she lived with these symbols of power. She was living with a slow-acting executioner. And yet, the evidence from her tomb suggests she lived for years, perhaps decades, as a ruler. This defiance of basic toxicology is the first crack in the logical explanation. It forces us to consider that the Moche, a civilization without a written language, possessed a knowledge of chemistry and medicine that we have yet to understand. Was the ink somehow neutralized? Was it applied in a way that prevented absorption? No scientific study has been able to explain how her body tolerated such a lethal dose. The symbols themselves point to a purpose far beyond mere aesthetics. The Moche were a deeply spiritual and warlike people. They believed that certain individuals could travel between worlds, that they could see the threads of destiny. The snake, shedding its skin, was a symbol of rebirth and transformation. The spider, weaving its web, was a symbol of the cosmic order. The feline, a creature of the night, was a guide to the underworld. Taken together, these tattoos weren't just a claim to power. They were a map of a supernatural journey. They marked her as someone who could navigate the unseen, who could see into the future. The placement of the tattoos on her hands and feet, areas of the body that interact with the world, suggests they were meant to be seen, to be read by those who approached her. But if the tattoos were a declaration of her prophetic abilities, the contents of her tomb served as the proof. Buried alongside her were the instruments of war, clubs, spear throwers, and the regalia of a military commander. Yet there were no signs of battle wounds on her body. She was not a warrior who fought with her hands. She was a different kind of force. The artifacts suggest she was consulted by warriors before they went into battle. She was the one who could see the outcome. She was the oracle of the Moche. Her body was the vessel for a vision, and the tattoos were the permanent markers of that sacred and deadly pact. The poison in her skin was the price she paid for the power in her mind. Imagine the scene in the ceremonial plazas of Cao Viejo. The warriors, painted and armed, would gather before the lady. They would look upon her inked skin, the snakes and felines writhing with her every breath. They would hear her prophecy, a vision of victory or defeat, delivered from a woman who was slowly being consumed by the very symbols of her authority. Her survival was a miracle, and in a world of gods and spirits, a miracle was proof. The Lady of Cao lived in a state of constant contradiction. She was the ultimate authority, the bridge between her people and the divine, yet her body was a repository of poison. How did the Moche artists apply these tattoos without her immediately falling ill? Did they have an antidote? Or was her tolerance seen as another sign of her supernatural nature, a divine protection that made her immune to the earthly consequences of the ink? When she finally died, her body was not simply buried. It was prepared for a final journey. She was wrapped in those 23 layers, each one a symbolic barrier between her physical form and the earth. Her position in the tomb, laid out with such precision, was not random. It was a pose that mirrored the images of deities and visionaries found on Moche pottery. Her hands were placed in a specific way, her body oriented towards the mountains, the source of water and life. The arrangement of her limbs and the objects around her formed a kind of code. It was a final prophecy, a message for the living, and a guide for her own spirit in the next world. The position of her body was a frozen sentence, telling us that even in death she was seeing something we could not. Local folklore, passed down through generations long before the archaeologists arrived, speaks of a woman with painted skin who could part the clouds and see the future. The discovery of the Lady of Cao brought this legend crashing into reality. The stories tell of her consulting not just with warriors, but with the earth itself. They say the snakes on her arms would move when a great event was coming. Science is left with fragments. We can analyze the ink and identify the mercury. We can study her bones and see that she was well nourished and lived a life of privilege. But we cannot explain the paradox. We cannot explain how a body can tolerate a dose of poison that would kill a modern human in weeks. The chemical analysis hits a wall of silence. Was the ink derived from a cinnabar source that was ritually transformed? Did the Moche have a method of binding the mercury to an organic compound that rendered it harmless? If so, that knowledge is lost. The recipe for the Lady of Cao's tattoos is a secret she took to her grave, and in that secret lies the core of the mystery. Her tomb has become a pilgrimage site. The mummy, now on display in a museum, is a silent oracle. Visitors look upon her preserved skin, at the dark lines of the tattoos, and they feel the same chill the archaeologists felt. They are looking at a woman who lived with death etched into her skin, who drew her power from the very thing that should have destroyed her. The legacy of the Lady of Cao is not just that she was a powerful female ruler in a male-dominated world. It is that she embodies a fundamental mystery. It forces us to question the limits of ancient knowledge. How much have we forgotten? How many doors of perception have we closed with our modern reliance on empirical data? The snakes and spiders on her skin are silent. The felines no longer stalk. But the question remains, hanging in the air of the museum like an unspoken prophecy. How did she survive the ink? What did she see that made the poison worth it? And as you look at her, at the tattoos that should have killed her, you have to wonder, what price are you willing to pay for a glimpse of your own future? The Lady of Cao rests now, a paradox wrapped in linen, a queen whose very flesh was a gamble with death. Her silence is the loudest part of her story, a challenge thrown across 1,700 years. And as the scientists continue to search for an answer, the local people of the Peruvian coast already have one. They will tell you, with a certainty that no microscope can refute, that she survived because she was chosen, and the proof is written on her skin.
Did you like this mystery? And what is your theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, then like and share. I'm Merc, and I'll be waiting for you in the next mystery.